Page 84, Minuet in G major by J.S. Bach. This is a very famous piece of music. This is an arrangement of it. Doesn't matter. You get the idea, the melody of what it sounds like. You'll find all kinds of recordings of this. First off, before I go into this at all, please keep in mind that way back in the 1700s, when Bach was doing most of his stuff, it was the style of the time. Composers did not put in dynamics, articulation, phrasing, tempo, none of that. All they did was they gave you the notes. And sometimes in the left hand, the bass, they didn't even give you the notes. They might give you the bass note and a chord or a name of a chord. You had to improvise. That was the way it was done. So all of these phrase marks and these staccatos and all this other stuff you're seeing have been added by editors. I'm assuming in this case that the author of this book had something to do with it. Doesn't matter. I mean, you're going to find similar markings in other copies or other arrangements of it. I just need you to know that these aren't what the composer said. It may be what the composer wanted, but not what the composer put in the music. So right at the beginning we see the legato of the phrase and the two staccatos. That's the style of the piece, sort of. The musician was expected to know how to interpret the piece. So the musician was expected to know the articulation and all that other stuff to add. And then, of course, everybody would play it differently, and that was the idea. You do. It's a personal thing. We have it all added in, so we're just going to follow what this book is showing. I would like to talk about the fingering just a little bit, starting with the right hand. At the beginning, we're starting out in G position. And for those two staccato Gs, I recommend a 2-1. So I would do the next two measures, the last two notes of the first line, a 1-2. And I would do it the same fingering anytime else, wherever you see the same passage. That saves me a lot of talking, sort of. At the bottom of the page, on page 84, look at the last two measures. You're starting out here, and you're crossing over the thumb for the F sharp. And you're leaving it on the thumb, and that's fine. You can do that. And you could use third finger on it. It's just that you got a B coming up. You either have a B coming up or a D coming up. If you're repeating, and we will, your next note is at the top of the page, page 84, it's a D. So you're here. So if you put your thumb on that half note G at the bottom of the page 84, the last note, you're in position to repeat. Okay. Now if you're going on to the next page, you have to come from here to here. But you're closer to where you want to be with the thumb rather than with third finger. So a thumb on that last note on page 84 is a good idea. I agree. You have a C sharp at the end of the first line on page 85. Careful. And both of those C's in that measure are sharp, right? Yes, they are. And then the next measure. So if you can do scales, these kinds of passages, like the first measure of the second line on page 85, these are a piece of cake. I mean, you can just do them. If you can't do the scales, you probably won't be able to play that smoothly and evenly. You'll struggle with it. Third line down, look at the fingering. We have a 5-1-2-1. 5, crossover. Last measure of the third line, it's 2-1-2-3. 2. See here we didn't do the thumb. You could, but you're a little out of position for the next measure. So it's 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. That way your thumb is available for that D. Then in the last two measures on page 85, it's here. Crossover. Now it's a staccato, so you don't even have to cross over because of the staccato. You can just move the hand. Get away with it. Or you can cross over. And then the last measure. The melody's the top note of that last chord. Bring that out. That's what we want to hear. In the left hand. Now, it can be a little tricky. Take a look at the top of page 84, right at the beginning. You're starting out with a 1 chord, and it's legato. But it can be tricky going from here to a 4th finger on the A and connect them. Because I would encourage you to work on that and get where you can do it. It will eventually get less tricky for you, but you just got to stay with it. You have a few staccatos in the left hand. You can do those, phrasing, blah, blah, blah. The last 2 measures on page 84 in the left hand, you're here. And then a staccato, little finger on the D staccato, and then thumb on the G. You're basically going from this octave to this octave, and you're walking your way down. But the staccato's put in there. On page 85, 3rd line down, let's take a look at the first couple measures in the left hand. You got 2 voices going. Some of the notes have stems going down, and the other notes have stems going up. It indicates there's 2 voices. The top voice is the D, the stem going up, and then the next measure, the E. So you have a rest, 2, 3, rest, 2, 3 in that voice. It's important to play the voice accurately. And the other voice, the stem's going down, you have this 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But when you put them together, it gets a little bit tricky because you got to hold the notes down. You got half notes. So the B you play first. You're going to hold it down as you play the D. So for the second beat, both notes are sounding. Now you're going to hold the D down while you play the quarter note B. Isn't that fun? And then the next measure, you play the C. Hold it down while you play the E. And then hold the E down while you play the C again. So the 2 measures, that takes a little practice. Because all the time you're doing this, you got the right hand doing its thing. I would encourage you to listen very carefully, record yourself if you have to, and get this accurate. In the last line, first measure in the left hand, that is a dotted half note. Again, we got the 2 voices. Dotted half note for 3 counts, but on the 3rd count, while you're holding the D down, you're going to play an F sharp. So for the 3rd beat, both notes are sounding. So it's 1, 2, 3. It's got repeat signs, so we're going to do the repeat signs. We're going to do all of that. 3/4 time minuet, all right? It's like a waltz, sort of. So let's try it out. So hands starting out here. No pedal, of course. Ooh. 1, ready, go. Repeat.